Hey nerds, Fino here with the final Nero Fest 3 guide. This one's for the new finale, which is a boss rush, much like last year's. Like the other finale, enemies have on-entry buffs that you need to contend with, but the difference is that instead of an on-death buff, they have passive auras this time, buffing enemies as long as they're on the field. This encourages a much more aggressive playstyle than last year. You have 7 enemy servants, and the first of these is Kid Gil. He gives himself buster resistance and gives an NP damage aura. Next is Rider Martha. Her personal buff is crit resistance, while her party buff is crit damage. Media Lily has NP damage resistance and a party-wide defense buff. Number 4 is Kualter. He has quick resistance and gives party-wide attack damage. Number 5 is Kotaro. He has 3 hits of complete damage reduction and gives a party-wide crit chance buff. And as part of his regular skill set, he can give a 1-turn evasion to an ally. Following him is Brynhildr. She has arch resistance and gives all allies invuln pierce. And finally, there's Nero. She gives all other allies full meter and a full health guts. However, the guts fizzles if she herself dies. Just make sure to kill Nero separately from the others. She needs to finish dying for the guts to dispel. On top of these, enemies have synergies where they buff specific characters on entry. Kid Gil gives Kualter 2 meter ticks and a crit buff. Martha gives Kotaro a buster attack and crit buff. Media Lily gives Brynhildr debuff immunity and a heal per turn. Kualter gives Media Lily a 3-hit evade and defense buff. Kotaro gives Media Lily a max health buff and debuffs on hit. And Brynhildr gives Kualter an attack buff but reduces his defense. Nero has one of these for every enemy. Kid Gil can bypass defense, Martha gets NP damage, Media Lily gets a heal amp, Kualter gets invuln pierce, Kotaro gets crit damage, and Brynhildr gets a special damage buff against loved one enemies. Now it's worth noting that at some point in this clusterfuck, Media Lily can get a massive defense buff and become very tanky, like the Siegfried kind. I've had trouble verifying the exact source of this buff and I killed her first in my footage, but people have reported it, so keep an eye out. It might be related to the buff that Kualter gives her, but I don't know. So as you might imagine, most strategies require killing Media Lily first. Her defense buff makes the fight needlessly slow, and she herself is hard to finish off if she gets defense. After that is Kualter to reduce incoming damage, then Kid Gil because he has a 3-tick NP bar. If you're worried about your damage, it might be worth reversing those two so you don't eat Gate of Babylon, but Kualter hits really fucking hard, so you gotta 1-turn him if you can. Then you really want to kill Brynhildr because her invuln pierce makes it hard to survive Nero's entry into double NP. Then you take out Nero to disable her guts, and finally finish Kotaro and Martha. By the way, Nero needs to die twice because her guts will always trigger. On a separate note, I don't know if she has her standard triple guts in this fight, but I advise against finding out. Except as a finisher, I'd avoid AoE characters as your main damage source. This lets you avoid a death trap like having Bryn and Nero on the field at the same time. However, some big dick Gilgamesh setups can enema elish their way through the whole thing if you're so inclined. Just gotta play around Kotaro and Kid Gil. For my part, I recommend characters like Toki and Kualter for your mainstay, because they can provide the high level of sustained damage you need to kill a long chain of high priority targets without being hamstrung by class advantage. Just gotta know your damage against Kid Gil on account of his personal buff. A Vlad setup should work as well, at least in theory, though you'll have a slower kill on Brynhildr and that might be a problem. If you take the route of leaving Kotaro and Martha last, you can run Bond Heracles for an effective finisher. Enemy health bars aren't very high in this fight, so once you fend off the big mechanics, they're easy pickings. If you have a strong buff purger, you can keep Media Lily alive and kill her last, because she herself is a negligible threat. However, her passive defense buff is still a problem, so you'd have to be ready for a much slower fight. You can get around it with Sherlock if you really want. Just keep in mind that Nero's NP ignores defense. You'd need some form of hard mitigation assuming you kill Brynhildr in advance. Assuming a standard approach, you should expect a much more explosive finale than last year, with people on both sides dropping from the damage coming out. It's a welcome change after the hideously long Da Vinci and Hassan fights. If last year's finale was tiptoeing around landmines, this year is a straight up slugfest. Pretty fun if you ask me. And isn't that the whole point of Nero Fest? No. That's medals. Who the fuck needs fun? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, by all means like, sub, and tell a friend. I'll be streaming my challenge quest runs and farming woes on Twitch, so stop on by. 3 PM Pacific time, Friday through Sunday. See ya there.